We face a massive problem in terms of youth unemployment in general, but especially youth unemployment. Besides the average of 40+% unemployment in our country, youth unemployment hovers between 60 and 63 most of the time. So really a scary number that 2/3 of people between the ages of more or less 18 and 30 are unemployed, and that number is even greater when you look at the vulnerable communities that we serve.
My name is Jane Haldeman. I have the privilege to lead an amazing organisation by the name of FCD Skills Centre. We were registered in MPO and we focus on empowering and equipping unemployed people, especially youth, through skills development. We have a very holistic approach to how we do that. We don't just focus on the actual technical skills or the employability, but we especially also focus on the emotional and the spiritual and the social well-being of our beneficiaries. So when they leave our organisation, we feel that they are well-rounded across all the areas of their humanity and their wellness. We have about 12 different skills programs that focus on different industries where we believe there's opportunities for employment or for self-employment. We have no restriction on who can join, although our focus is very much on the age group 18 to 35. Anyone 18 upwards can come. We've had beneficiaries in their 50s wanting to make a change in their life. Even those that don't have grade 12, we give hope to. In our country, there is a big percentage of people who don't reach grade 12. The stat is that about 50% of the learners who enter grade 1 don't end up in grade 12. So that is almost your last generation in terms of skills and employment especially. And we especially focus on those people. There are still industries that do take candidates who don't have grade 12. They're far and few between, but at least when you gain another practical skill on top of your grade 10 or 11, you stand a better chance of finding employment and providing for yourself. We are based in 2 centres, one in Durbanville, one in Fisantekraal. So our Fisantekraal Centre obviously focuses especially on that community, but there are people from other communities joining there. And then the Durbanville Centre very much reaches across the Cape Metropole, so people from all over Cape Town can access. It's just more accessible than the Fisantekraal one. And we believe in a hand up, not a hand out. So the ethos in everything we do is about helping someone to help themselves. It's not about charity, it's about equipping, and it's about helping people realize their own potential and improving their self-esteem and their dignity so that they can provide for themselves, so that they can believe that they can provide for themselves and their families. The communities that we mainly serve are communities that face a lot of trauma. So your disadvantaged communities, people who live in those communities really do face trauma on a daily basis, whether it's around safety, whether it's around poverty, whether it's around substance abuse. And so when people get to us, they come in a state of trauma. So one of our key areas that we focus on, as I said earlier, is emotional well-being. And one of the ways we do that is through professional counselling. So we have amazing counsellors who serve our organisation and come in, and our beneficiaries have the benefit of 2 to 3 sessions with a counsellor, so that they can work through things that before they've never been able to. If you want a healthy employee, you need someone who is emotionally healthy. So also our life skills focus on things like relationships and communication and conflict, so that things that I think privileged people take for granted, which they either learn in a privileged school they go to or within a home environment. Many South African young people don't have those emotional skills yet by the time they enter the job market. So it really is important for us to help them through that journey, so that self-growth is really important. And then on top of that, of course, the technical skills, which makes them more employable. We have both. We opened the centre here in Greenville, Fisantekraal, in 2022. And that was a dream come true, because we've always done training in this community as well, but then we would just use a church there or a community centre here. To have a footprint and have infrastructure and have the right environment to be able to reach more people within this community it was really a dream come true. But we've always wanted to keep our Durbanville Centre just because it's so accessible then for people from around Cape Town. At the moment we're between buildings because we're actually moving into slightly bigger premises in Durbanville. So and it's right next door, so that was also an absolute miracle. And we'll have one more classroom than we had before, which will really enable us, because we are limited by the infrastructure we have, so we can only do so much training based on the resources we have in the infrastructure. So we're excited when we move in there in March that we could reach even more people.
Fantastic. Do you want to share some statistics with us?
Yes. So at the moment, based on our 12 programs and based on our sort of resource capacity, we're able to reach about 600 people in a year through our training programs. And a statistic that we're really proud of and that we work hard towards is what percentage of those beneficiaries then either become employed or self-employed. And that statistic for the last financial year was at 87%. So after a beneficiary leaves us, we measure them, we connect with them, and we mentor them, and we reach out to them for at least 2 years. It's really important for us not just to have people there. Our courses are short, so from 3 weeks to 3 months is the longest one. So it's hard to sustainably speak into someone's life and to help them grow for such a short space of time. So for us, it's really important what happens after they've left. So that connection remains with them. They also come back for mentorship sessions. And so, for 2 years, we walk that journey with them. And then we obviously also gain information about, are they working, where they're working, how are things, do they need to come back, do they need to update their CVs, etc. So there's all the aftercare services. And the 87% points towards the percentage of people who have started work after they've left FCD. Work in today's day and age and the reality of the South African economy is relative. So very few people do get immediate permanent contracts, especially when you look at entry-level jobs. So it often is either part-time hours, or it is casual work, or a short-term contract. So hence also the importance of us staying connected to our beneficiaries for a period of time, so that if they fall out of work again because of the economy or because of short-term contracts, that we are available to support. We have a whole department that looks after our job shadows and our job placements. So other than the training that happens, which is at the core of what we do, the placements and giving our beneficiaries job experience is critical for our success. So every program has a practical job shadow period. So they would go into a coffee shop, for example, the barista training we do, they would spend a certain number of days in a coffee shop making coffee. They would spend a certain number of days in a guest home, seeing the environment, helping physically applying the skills they've learned. So with every course that's the case. On the job readiness side, they go into a retail environment for a certain number of days.
So practical hours.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
So those practical hours are key, and they also have the opportunity to ask for more job shadows once they've completed their course, because as long as they're looking for work, gaining those practical skills and sharpening those skills and having that on their CV really helps them to then find longer term employment. The placements as well, so we are constantly building relationships and networking with businesses out there, not just local but in the greater Cape Town, because if we have stronger relationships, not just on the funding side as a non-profit, but in terms of supporting us through job shadows, through placements, the bigger percentage of students or beneficiaries can find jobs. So any business in any of the 12 industries that we serve for our programs are welcome to partner with us, and we are always looking for new partners. And what a great way to not just support unemployment and youth unemployment, but also for businesses to gain potential staff that already have a set of skills, both on the soft skills side and on the technical skills side. We provide CVs at no cost, and and we obviously shortlist candidates who we believe are suitable for vacancies. And when people do the job, when our beneficiaries do the job shadows, it's also an opportunity for an employer to screen people and see, I love this person, they're doing really well, I'm going to employ them, or when I have a vacancy, I'm going to want to contact them. So that relationship and that partnership works really well to everyone's benefit. It really is a
So glad you mentioned that, because I can't see why organisations wouldn't want to connect and be part of almost the loop, you would say,
the full circle,
because they are getting staff who's been trained, who really wants to work.
Exactly.
And as you said, already had the soft skills as well.
Yeah. And often some partners become multiple partners. So they would start maybe as a job shadow partner, eventually become a placement partner, and then really buy into what we do and become a funding partner. So for us, those relationships are key, and the awareness across the businesses and across industry is really important for us to be able to do more and to be more sustainable. Because being a non-profit in South Africa is tough. It's tough globally. Ever since COVID, it's been, you have to work really hard to be seen and heard amongst a big number of non-profits. Everyone doing a really good job, but the pie is only that big in terms of funding. So for us, it's really important to start engaging with people and not just send out proposals for funding, but also start walking a journey with businesses and individuals, so that they can see the impact we're making firsthand, and really experience that it's a sustainable way of addressing unemployment.
It's a massive impact. I think on your website you spoke about for every one person who finds employment, they actually have, I think it read 7 people dependable on that salary.
So in our vulnerable communities, you have your average household is about 7, who potentially depends on one breadwinner. When we work out our statistics in terms of how many people we reach indirectly, then we work on 5 just to be more conservative, but the stat out there is 7. So we know that for every person who walks out of our centre who then becomes employed, there's a huge ripple effect on the family unit. Not just in providing food on the table, but also in terms of the soft skill side, so the well-being of a person. If that mother, almost 80% of our beneficiaries are young females, and often young mothers, single mothers, that has an impact on their children and the rest of their family, because if they've worked through trauma, or they are just emotionally in a better space, they can care better for their families. So for us, it's really encouraging to know that we're reaching way beyond the 600 people that we are able to serve within a year. And having been in existence since 2010, this is our 15th year, so quite an exciting year. It adds up eventually, and it's just about, it's hard. So we always say we cry a lot, both for joy and for and for all the just all the hurt and pain that one does see around you. But that inspires us to do more. And every testimony that we get of someone, and those are just the best. When we sit in a classroom at the end of a program, we have a farewell, and every student has an opportunity to say how the course has impacted them, and those are just so amazing to know and to see. And sometimes it's not the things you can measure. It really is the inside stuff, just how they've started believing in themselves and how they have new hope. And how maybe someone's never encouraged them or never given them the opportunity to think bigger than what they've been used to. So we love what we do.
Do you want to share a story, perhaps as an example, of one of your students that reached some form of success that you're involved in and that you're immensely proud of?
It's always so hard because there's so many, but I'll give you some examples. The one very recent one is a lady who finished our job readiness and Office Basics program. She was a star student, and to supplement or to expand our resource, our staff complement, without having to have a big salary bill, we have quite a number of interns, so about 10, and how that works then, a company sponsors their stipend, and based on those sort of youth employment incentives, and then they gain experience, so they come and work with us either in reception or with administration, in our marketing team, and that way they gain skills and expand on their CV, but they get a stipend in that period. And we gain extra hands, which we so desperately need. So one of these ladies we grabbed as an intern because she was just a star student, and she's been with us for the last 3 years, and her internship coming to an end now. So we're very sad to lose her, and at this point we didn't have a permanent position that we could employ her into. But one of our partners in that same period came to us, a very successful actuarial company, and they want to invest in young talent and someone who comes in with basic skills who they can then grow within their environment. And we immediately knew it was going to be her, or that would be the CV we would put forward. And yeah, in December they had the interview, and she starts the 1st of Feb. And she sent us a voice note after the interview, and they showed her office, and it's like a glass office, and it's this colour, and
up in the
she's got so there's so many stories like that. That is just one. I mean, there are we've got a group actually, which quite a few of our trainers and staff is on, where we share placement testimonies, and it's just tears every time you get a picture, because we always ask students to take a picture for us where you're working and send it to us. And we had a one on the group this week where someone found employment, one of our barista grads at Mug and Bean, and Micah Durban was also one of our great partners, and often have testimonies from them, and pick up by Harn and just the list goes on. It really is encouraging just to see that big smile and to realize how desperate people are to have a job, even jobs that sometimes people who are qualified or privileged think is like, how can anyone ever want to be a frail carer? Little money, seriously hard work. People are just so desperate for jobs. They, for them it's a huge breakthrough. And we don't always realize that when we move through life more privileged. People finding employment or having successes with their own business is just phenomenal. Another example of some of our students who start their own small businesses is we have quite a few of our bake-for-profit grads who then start their own small catering business. We ourselves only use our grads when we have functions, when we have our graduations or our annual general meetings, etc. And one of our students, or two of them recently, have also started providing also for one big office in terms of their catering needs, etc. So there's lots of examples like that.
So MPOs globally, but especially in the South African economy, really do struggle to survive. It's a tough environment. There are many thousands of MPOs out there all doing really wonderful work, but the resources are limited. So the challenge for us is to remain sustainable, to gain enough funders, and not just funders, it's also about diversifying income, is to really be creative about how we raise funds and where we gain those resources. I always say that in an NPO environment, 1 rand is equal to 1,000 in another. We really do get every drop of sweat out of every rand that we have. And also it's often challenging to have suitable resources in terms of skill and just enough hands. So we always have more work than what we have hands for. So we're always in need, for example, of volunteers. We have a big volunteer culture. A lot of people from around Durbanville get involved with FCD, and we're always needing more in any way. If you think you've got a heart for what we do, we'll be able to use you somewhere in some way, and you won't regret it. And then on the funding side, we're always looking for more businesses, foundations, private individuals to get involved, whether it is to provide us with financial support, or whether it is to support us through, as I mentioned earlier, placements, leading staff. We want our students employed, so the more partners we can get to place our students, the better. Whether it is to offer job shadows, practical work experience for our beneficiaries. So those are really the biggest needs and the biggest challenges at the same time. And also we have a desire to grow. We have a desire to move into more communities, but we're very serious about doing it well, the quality of what we do. So for us, it's not about growing, so the end goal is not growing. The end goal is to sustain a quality service to unemployed people, to be able to prove that it makes long-term impact, and then to duplicate that when and as the time is right, and when and as we have enough resources into other communities. And that's been a slow process, but we rather do it that way than almost growing too fast and it becomes this bit of a machine that just rolls over. We're very focused on, as I mentioned earlier, on individual attention in terms of the development of each beneficiary, and that takes time and attention. So for us, that is a more important goal than just becoming bigger and bigger.
It's an investment in a person.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's about the life that we change, yeah. So, but we do have dreams to share more of that with more people and reach more people. And that we can't do on our own, that we can only do through God's grace and provision, but eventually through people. People bringing their hearts, bringing their wallets, bringing their time, bringing their skills, to assist us and to make that impact. I don't think as South Africans we have the luxury of living just for ourselves and our own families. If we want this beautiful country to succeed, we need to all put in that extra bit, wherever that is, wherever your passion is and your core is. It might be with children, vulnerable children, it might be with vulnerable adults that we are. It might be through conservation, but somewhere one needs to see where is it that you can put your the bit of time that you might have, or the bit of skills or funding to make South Africa a better place.